I get it when you're staring at a sky full of possibilities and wondering whether to drop a few $100s on a telescope. The what if I get the wrong one? Thought sits heavy. I've been there, scrolling through spec sheets, trying to picture how the thing will actually feel on a backyard patio, and worrying if the money will disappear into a black hole of unused gear. So before you decide whether the Celestron CGEM 800 is the right fit for your night ski ambitions, let's walk through the real-world experience. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the CGEM isn't a starter, plug-and-play model you can just dump on a tripod and expect perfect views out of the box. It's positioned as a mid-range SCT that tries to bridge the gap between hobby-grade refractors and the heavier research-grade scopes. The biggest thing that people hesitate about is the balance between portability and the traditional bulk of an 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain. The CGEM claims ergonomic design and a decent carrying capacity, but what does that look like when you actually load it up? When I unpacked the box, the first impression was the solid, but surprisingly manageable, mount. The motorized altazimuth base is a step up from the simple Dobsonian rigs, giving you smooth tracking without the steep learning curve of an equatorial mount. The built-in periodic error correction, PC, is a nice touch. It smooths out the small mechanical quirks that can make long-exposure astrophotography a nightmare. In practice, you'll notice that after you run the auto-alignment routine, the scope holds a planet for a minute or two without drifting noticeably. That's a practical strength for anyone who wants to dip a handheld camera into the mix without spending hours on guiding software. Now, imagine you're setting up on a suburban balcony. The CGEM's footprint is larger than a compact refractor, but the base folds down enough to fit through a standard door, and the weight about 30 pounds means you'll likely need a small cart or a sturdy tripod. If you have a dedicated astronomy stand, the mounting points line up nicely. If you're improvising with a kitchen table, you'll feel the wobble after a few minutes of tracking. That's where the carrying capacity claim turns practical. The mount can hold a modest DSLR or a dedicated astronomy camera, but you'll start to hit its limits with heavier gear, like a full-frame DSLR plus a large field flattener. Let's talk about who actually benefits from this design. If you're an intermediate astronomer who already owns a few eyepieces and maybe a basic finder scope, and you're looking to step up from lunar and planetary views to brighter deep sky objects, the 8-inch aperture gives you a clear jump in light-gathering power. You'll be able to resolve the rings of Saturn, see the cloud belts on Jupiter, and pull out the core of the Orion Nebula without hunting for perfect seeing conditions. The SCT optics, combined with the CGEM's motorized tracking, make it a solid platform for short-term imaging sessions. Think a 30-second stack of a galaxy rather than a night-long deep exposure. Conversely, if you're a total beginner who just wants to point and stare, you might find the CGEM a little overkill. The initial alignment steps, the need to balance the tube, and the occasional firmware prompts can feel like a mini-engineering project. For a first-timer, a 70mm refractor on a simple Altaz mount often provides enough wow factor with far less setup time. Also, if you're hoping to do serious astrophotography that requires long, unguided exposures, the 8-inch SCT's focal length, around 2000mm, can make tracking more demanding, especially in areas with even modest light pollution. You'll probably need an additional auto-guiding rig, which pushes the total system cost beyond the price of the CGEM alone. A hidden trade-off shows up when you think about portability versus performance. The CGEM's ergonomic design includes a hand grip that feels comfortable when you're moving the scope around, but the overall package still needs a vehicle or a sturdy set of stairs to get it up to your observing site. If you live in an apartment and plan to carry the scope up to a rooftop, the logistics might become a pain point. On the flip side, once it's set up, the motor drive is quiet enough that you don't have to worry about it drowning out the subtle sounds of the night, a small but pleasant detail when you're trying to stay relaxed for a long session. One of the practical strengths that often gets missed in the spec sheet is how the CGEM handles temperature changes. The Schmidt Cassegrain design means the optics are sealed, so you don't have to worry about collimation drifting as the evening cools down. In my own backyard tests, I noticed that after the first half hour, the focus stayed where I set it, even as the temperature dropped by 10 degrees. That steadiness is a real time saver for anyone who wants to jump from planet to nebula without constantly refocusing. On the downside, the mount's firmware, while functional, isn't the most intuitive. The menu navigation requires a few